Leonard Lance of New Jersey. Hillary Clinton won narrowly in his district, and he voted against the bill today. Congressman, first off, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Katie.
So your colleagues in Republican leadership, they say that absolutely pre-existing conditions will be covered. You just heard Congressman Collins guarantee it, and it's not going to make their premiums rise. Do you agree with that assessment?
Chris Collins, friend of mine, and certainly we all want to make sure that nobody is denied coverage based upon a pre-existing condition. But Katie, I preferred the original language and not the language as was voted today on the floor of the House.
What was that original language?
The original language said that there would be no denial of coverage based upon a pre-existing condition. It did not modify in any way the original language in the legislation that was passed in 2010.
So when your Republican colleagues come out and they guarantee that, and they say that the high-risk pools will work and that $8 billion is enough to cover pre-existing conditions, you don't agree with that. Do you go to them and do you say, listen, I'm really concerned about this. I'm concerned about the promise we made to voters that we are going to make sure that they stay covered. How can there be such a disagreement within your own caucus?
I hope that the Senate will address this issue, and I'm sure that the bill, as it proceeds through the Senate, will be different from the current version that passed the House today. Katie, I also would urge our Democratic colleagues to come to the table to work with us, and so far it has been only one party that's been working on this issue, our party, and I hope and expect that the Democrats will come to the table, because I think there is a responsibility to work together in a bipartisan capacity to improve the system, because, as you know, the exchanges are not doing well in many parts of the United States.
Do you believe this legislation was too rushed?
I think that we should have awaited a CBO score regarding the legislation.
Republicans say that they got 2 CBO scores on this. I just got a message from a staffer and a Republican for one of the congressmen saying, "Nuh-uh, they had 2 CBO scores on this." Did they have 2 adequate CBO scores on this legislation?
The original score that I read indicated that there would be many challenges with the legislation, and that was the principal reason that I didn't favor it, and I would like to see an up-to-date CBO score, and I hope as this moves in the Senate, proceeds to the other side of the Capitol, that there can be an update on that.
So in 2010, you voted a bunch of times to repeal Obamacare and parts of it. So if you did that so many times back when Republicans were not in charge of this, why are you not doing it today? What's the difference?
The difference is we have a Republican president who's willing to work with us, and the reason I voted as I did when Barack Obama was president was to get his attention that the exchanges are not working well, and he was not able or willing, in my judgment, to work with us, the Republican majority in the House and the Senate, to try to improve the situation. And President Trump wants to improve the situation, as do I, and now we're trying to work with the White House, and I hope that our Democratic colleagues here on Capitol Hill will work with us as well.
Congressman, last year, when you were voting to repeal this bill, you said this: "I believe it was important that Congress keep its promise to the American people and take the repeal effort all the way to the end of the process under our Constitution." That doesn't seem to jive with what you just said.
I think that we do have the responsibility to improve the situation, and certainly I think that we have to work with the President of the United States, and I think it was unfortunate during the Obama presidency that the bill was passed on a party line vote, and I hope that we can learn from that lesson, and I would imagine in the Senate that there will have to be bipartisan cooperation.
If you believe there should be bipartisan cooperation, why was there not more outreach done to Democrats? Why did the president himself not reach out to anybody on the Democratic side of the House to say, hey, listen, let's find something that works for both sides?
I think that the president is trying to reach out to both sides, as he has said.
When did he do that?
I would imagine as we move to the Senate, Katie, I would imagine that he would try to the Democrats, but the Democrats, Katie, have to be willing to work with him. I thought it was very unfortunate this afternoon when the Democrats were chanting on the floor of the House. I thought that was unfortunate, and not in the tradition of bipartisan cooperation. And when I was in a similar position in 2010, I certainly would not have conducted myself that way.
Would you have gone to the Rose Garden to celebrate a legislative win even before it's signed into law, even before it goes to the Senate?
I was not invited to the Rose Garden because I was one of 20 Republicans not to vote for the legislation. I certainly think that there should be bipartisan cooperation, and that will require the actions not only of the Majority Leader, Senator McConnell, but of the Minority Leader, Senator Schumer, as well.
Congressman Leonard Lance of New Jersey. Thank you very much, Congressman. Appreciate your time.